Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's May 7th, 2022. Raining in the Northeast. And Steve, welcome back.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a good week.
You know, flowers
And
are
yes,
starting to bloom.
yes, it is raining.
It is raining. So hope everybody's well. And, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in sports, but it's Kentucky Derby Day. But of course, we start with our monologue. I think that's me this week, right?
It is.
And our monologue, of course, is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And Steve, my monologue this week is kind of just a thank you to our listeners, our growing base of listeners. And you and I have started this a couple of years ago, and it's something we look forward to every week. And it's just a privilege to have people starting to talk about our show, listen to the show. We're from coast to coast. We got Tony up in Oregon. We got Mike Harvey down in Florida. We got your BU buddies from the Northeast and my Niagara guys. And like I said, every time I'm out and at a sporting event, we talk about the show and people say, yes, I listened to that show. And it's just, it's great. This has been a passion of you and ours, for forever since we grew up. Sports was our thing. And yes, there are certainly more important things in the world to talk about than sports, but this is something that's kind of a break from all the social problems, political problems, worldwide problems. But I just wanted to give a big shout out to all our loyal listeners for listening to the show. And we couldn't be more grateful. And listen, when you talk about all these podcasts, there's millions of them out there, right? Some people say, you know what, for 55 minutes, I can listen to Mono and Mono because these guys, they know what they're talking about. They're funny. They're not particularly good looking. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure our loyal listeners know how appreciative we are of their support. And, we've gone a long way from just recording our show and audio to now we had a producer, Rob. And Rob, we thank you. And we get comments now and online listeners, and we're very grateful. I just want to give a shout out.
Yeah, I second that notion. I can't thank the audience enough. And like you said, we're growing. It's We've been doing this now for what 2 or 3 years at least now. Like you said, we started in a tiny apartment, basically recording ourselves, and it's been our passion, as you said, since our youth. And it's go and where we are now, we want to keep growing, and again, we're out and about, and it's all about meeting people. And we met Rob through a mutual friend, Anthony, and that's how it works. And can't thank you, Rob, enough for taking the time and investing in us and the belief in our show. And we look forward to bigger, better things and getting guests on and things like that. So thank you, and let's talk sports.
Let's talk sports, Steve. Well, listen, there's a lot going on, of course, with the NBA playoffs, and we're going to get to that. But today is Kentucky Derby Day, start to finish, right? And it's a big day for us. We love this, and I wrote a little column on JPM Sports Entertainment the other day about, one of my greatest moments in sports. One of my favorite memories is Secretariat winning the Kentucky Derby and then going on to win the Preakness and ultimately winning this, obviously the Belmont, which secured his legacy as one of the greatest horses. And, since then there've been a few Triple Crown winners, but this is a great day. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but let's talk about the Kentucky Derby, Steve. What's your initial thoughts?
Well, I think Secretariat is the greatest horse that's ever graced the planet, and I don't think it's in the big red. I think of the Kentucky Derby, I was 8 years old in '73, and you were what, 9 and a half, and it was just so unbelievable. You're watching greatness, like we've talked about it. You watch Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan, the Tiger Woods in golf,
Yeah.
that type of thing. That was a special moment. And there's been very many other special moments with the Triple Crown. The next one that comes to mind is Ali Dar and Affirmed in '78 for me. I think the wire to wire by a nose, all three races was to me can't be topped. I think all three races there was just so
Get chills
exciting.
even just thinking about it.
I did. It was Steve Cawthon, riding Affirmed, and on and on. We've seen great horses from Seattle Slew to everybody.
American Pharaoh to Justify, but it all starts with today, right?
Right. And then, we have to, mention last year, right? So Medina Spirit, last year's Kentucky Derby turned out to be, basically a 12-month Kentucky Derby because of the controversy. And I don't foresee that happening this year, obviously. And unfortunately, Medina Spirit died, tragically at such a young age for a horse. But today, it's a new day, right? It's raining, which means flowers are out there, and Kentucky and mint juleps and the hats and the dress and
the whole
other thing is
circumstance.
Right, and the other thing is that COVID is slowly but surely dissipating. So the grandstand should be full at the Kentucky Derby watching the race, and somebody's.
But I talked about it because
there's 20
Steve,
horses going today.
It is. It's a 20-horse field today, and just the whole pomp and circumstance of it all. We love Saratoga. We love all of the horse racing, industry itself. It's got tragic points, but it's got glamour. And today's the glamour day. Today's the Kentucky Derby, and couldn't be more excited. Post time's about 6:57 Eastern Standard Time. But let's talk about the horses today.
And what's good about that is at 6:57, it's 2 minutes because the Rangers will drop the puck at 7:01 Eastern Standard Time.
Good sports day, right?
Yeah.
But look, let's talk about the field. And Steve, you mentioned it's 20 horses, and you never know, post position, all those kind of things come into play. So I'm going to give you my three horses I like today, but I will say this, the two favorites, Zandon, and Epicenter, they are rightfully the favorites in the Kentucky Derby today. They're beautiful horses. They got a good pedigree and track record, but I think I'm going with Messier today, and of course named after one of our favorite sports legends of all time, Mark Messier. I like White Abarrio, and again, that's hard for me because that's a gray horse, and I'm not historically fond of gray horses, but I like that. And my sleeper pick is Mo Donegal today. But again, Zandon and Epicenter are the rightful favorites in the race, and it should be a good race. We're not sure what the weather is like. It's been raining out there, obviously, but Churchill Downs is notorious for a well-drained track, so it's going to be muddy and sloppy, but not like a complete monsoon. Who do you like today, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, Zandon is what 3-1 last I saw, rightfully so, and Messier, and again, because he is one of our, if you look behind me, he's 8-1 last I saw. It's got 3 wins. With the weather, it really, even though it's going to be a wet track, it still factors into the Zandons and Epicenters that are the favorites. So really, with 20 horses, outside of 5 or 6 that have absolutely no chance whatsoever.
Right, it's to round out the field kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Zandon winning with Messier right there in the mix with those.
Yeah.
And I don't want to agree with you just for the sake of agreeing with you, but those are my 3 horses that I think are could be 3-2-1, whatever.
And again, what's
one of those 3 to me is going to win the race.
And what's notable about this race is a lot of these horses today haven't, possibly, run in these kind of conditions. So it's a, it's a 20 horse field, and of course things happen, where there could be some surprises, but it is a great field. And you kind of rid me last week saying, you always say that it's the most competitive field and whatnot, but I'm not kidding. I think this year is very unique. There's a lot of things, and you're right. There's things looming over the Kentucky Derby, right? We don't have Bob Baffert there this year, although don't think he's not calling the shots, from behind the.
He's
his
absolutely
ventriloquist
calling the
flag.
shots, and he's in the news. I mean, I've read for 3 days, Baffert crying the blues that he should be there, and he's not guilty, and all this stuff.
Yeah,
he's a powerful guy in the racing industry, as we all know.
big time.
But he deserves the suspension, and tough noogies, there.
But listen, whether you like the jockeys' colors or not, like I said, I got a text from one of our loyal listeners, Walhan from Arkansas, who's big race fan, and he likes Messier to win the race, but he also likes a couple of horses like Simplification and Charge.
Sure.
These are some of the long shots. But you're right. Coming off the Medina Spirit thing, and actually being run in the first weekend of May instead of September due to the COVID thing. It's just great to have the Kentucky Derby back. Psyched. Couldn't be more. And listen, we're going to watch the race with one of our listeners who's still reeling from our Sir Winston pick a few years ago, Mr. Corey Cole.
Yeah. And again, Medina Spirit last year wasn't a favorite by any stretch of the imagination, right? Medina Spirit, if I remember correctly,
I had him in my top 3. Actually.
I think it was 12-1 or something, if I remember correctly. But again, the reason I like Zandon is Zandon's got a very good post slot today, and
post position is big in this race.
Right, there's no question, especially on a muddy track. If it gets its path, that's Zandon's got the engine to run the race, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah,
Messier. The other thing about Messier, he has 3 wins, but the losses that he's had, he's gotten his ass kicked when he's lost. So
no, not really. His last race, he lost to Tabor. It was neck and neck in the last 100 yards kind of thing. But he's a horse to be reckoned with.
The race he's supposed to win.
Yep. So anyway, hope everybody enjoys the race. It's something to watch. Like I said, I think it's around 6:57. Eastern Standard Time, but riders up at Churchill Downs.
Correct.
All right, Steve. Let's move on. Let's talk about the NHL playoffs, because I got to tell you, you and I are huge fans of playoff hockey, but it's been really exciting. The first 2 games of the Rangers-Pittsburgh game series has been unbelievable, and it just doesn't disappoint year after year.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. And speaking of game 1 of the Rangers-Penguins triple overtime affair, I've looked at this goal, this waved off goal, probably 150 times since it happened, and 150 times. And again, everybody knows I'm a diehard Ranger fan. I try, being that we're doing a show, our oath is to be as objective as possible. Now, Kakko came in. He didn't intentionally interfere with the goalie. In fact, he was trying to avoid the goalie, but it's clear the defenseman pushed him into the goalie, right? And it's not like it was in the middle of the net and everything. I'm just saying, right? I'm more disappointed in the way the review was handled than it was that it was waved off, because I thought it was just too quick. Matter of fact, you don't blame Mike Sullivan, who's a great coach for Pittsburgh, a fellow Boston University guy, for challenging that. But, I can't cry over spilt milk. 3 overtimes, Pittsburgh gets game 1. Game 2, Rangers come out and kick their ass. And here we are. Game 3 is tonight. And then switching gears real quick, Toronto, Tampa for Game 1. Old-time hockey, dropping the gloves, fists are flying. That that was good stuff. 5-0 goes to Toronto. Tampa comes back, 1-1, and Tampa's mad. And just those two games on the East. Carolina looks formidable. They're really taking it to the Bruins. And then the West Coast, the Flames are pretty damn good. The Flames Avalanche, to me, are the two teams in the West that'll battle it to get to the finals.
No, it's been awesome. And yeah, you're right. The Lightning thing. And hey, the Bruins came back and won last night. So that series is 2-1.
They did, but Carolina's winning this. Carolina's too good, man.
It seems that way, but yeah. And you talk about old time hockey with dropping the gloves. The Flame series, it was like a dirty hit, and this Kachuk just dropped the gloves, and that's part of the game. I know people don't subscribe to the theory that fighting should be allowed in hockey, but it's kind of rare now, but sometimes it's necessary.
Of course it's necessary. Fighting should be allowed in hockey. I mean, let's be real. And again, when we talk fights here, this isn't MMA stuff that we're talking about. They're kicking each other in the face and everything. These guys are throwing haymakers. Most of the time, they're hitting the shoulders. They're hitting the top of the helmets. This, that, and the other thing. But I'm not saying fighting should – it's a message, but it's also standing up for your team, and we're not going to be you know what I mean? That's what it's about. You're not kicking our ass. Bring it on. And
in the NHL playoffs –
and typically
the playoffs I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, typically once they fight early in the series – that just sets the tone, and then it's skill and putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, and then it's lunch pails. Every one day on, one day off, and they're right back at it. It's unbelievable. And we're talking about the NHL playoffs like it's been unbelievable already, and we're only 3 games into the first round of the playoffs. So this is a marathon, and you and I have always mentioned the toughest trophy to win in sports is the Stanley Cup, and it's great. It's great.
And Edmonton, to their credit, Edmonton, I don't know, months ago they were playing the worst hockey they could possibly play. They fired their coach Tippett, and ever since then, the Oilers have been playing good hockey, taking on the Kings, and I don't think Edmonton is as good as Calgary and Colorado. But I wanted to tip my hat to.
And they'll get past the Kings. They'll get past the Kings.
They should.
But here was, talking about the Oilers, who scored a hat trick yesterday? A guy you and I have talked about on the show a couple times is Evander Kane.
Yeah,
he scored a hat trick last night.
I know, and he scored in the other games too. And this is a guy that's been in the news. Bad publicity, and the white, messy divorce and things like that.
Gambling, that kind of thing.
Allegedly, it turns out that it was a bunch of nonsense. That the bitter ex-wife, this has shades of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard nonsense.
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, so hockey, listen, that's well underway, and for you non-hockey fans, watch a couple games, you'll start to be hooked. It's great. Competition is amazing. It's great.
Yes, it is.
So Steve, let's move on to the NBA playoffs, because that's well underway too, right? We're down to 4 series, 8 teams. Who notably missing, of course, is the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets, but you still got guys like the Miami Heat, the Sixers, and Joel Embiid came back last night, played. They beat the Heat. Again, I don't know how this is going to pan out. We talked about it in the West Coast that Phoenix was all on board, but Dallas came back. They moved the series to 2-1. It's getting pretty exciting. And I said, the reason it's exciting for me is there's just so many of these young up and coming stars in the NBA, and I'm been watching more of the NBA than I have in the past 10 years. I got to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad LeBron James is not in the playoffs this year. To your point, I was going to make that point. You're starting to see the young faces of the NBA in playoff time, especially a Ja
Yep.
Morant, right? Who I think the audience knows I'm a big fan of him. The Devin Bookers, things like that. Got hurt, but um, the Miami Heat. Mike Garvey, our loyal listener from Miami, I think he's been spot on. Obviously he's a Heat fan, but Mike is the type of guy that is an objective guy like we are. Miami up 2-0. Embiid gets hurt. I hate the Philadelphia 76ers, especially now with Harden part of this. So I have extra incentive to root for Miami. I think Miami is good enough to beat these guys, and I'm really rooting for Miami to knock off the Sixers. And I'd love to see the Miami Heat and the Bucks again rematch.
Yeah, that'd be a good
And
match.
the Celtics, the Celtics. I've been touting them. They're outstanding. They've been playing very good basketball. I think they got their hands full with the Bucks here. I just think the Bucks are a little bit better, and I think the Bucks and the Heat are going to play in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And listen, it does no harm to the NBA and all the networks to have Giannis in there, because this guy is one of the great players, obviously, in the game today, and he's going to go down as one of the great players of all time. So a mix with these established guys and these young kids coming up, and they're hungry. And
yeah,
I think it's actually really, really exciting, the NBA playoffs. And I'm not sure why they have to play one game and then they get 4 days off, and the hockey guys, they lose 3 teeth and they're, get out of the dentist chair and they're back in the game the next night.
Right. That's why I like the Suns and the Mavericks is a really good series. We've talked about Chris Paul and his quest for the ring, but Dallas with Luka Doncic, right? So Luka now, got over the injury, missed game 1. This guy is a beast. He's a beast. Right?
He's a beast.
And that makes for good basketball. So that's a good series. Dallas, I think, will even it up, and then I think most of these series are going to go 7 games probably.
Yeah. But the NBA playoffs is underway, and listen, this is going to go on for 8 weeks. So, settle back, put your seatbelt on. It's pretty exciting.
No question. Yep. Right. You could get in a hot air balloon and go around the world in 80 days and be back for the NBA finals.
Yeah. So, Steve, let's move on to Major League Baseball, because couple of notable things, and I and Rob were talking before the show about the Buck Showalter effect on the Mets, and they're living up to what we had thought, maybe not to this level, and they're doing this without one of the best pitchers in baseball, and Jacob deGrom. But on the other side, what do you make of this Cincinnati Reds things? I think these guys, they looked like a pretty decent team last year, and they're 3-25, which is one of the all-time worst starts in Major League Baseball history. How do you explain that?
I don't. I was at work. I was talking to my buddy Frank, who I work with, and that subject came up. He actually called me over to his desk, and I wasn't aware it was that bad, to be honest, until yesterday. And he said, Steve, come here. He goes, take a look at this. And I said, 3-25? What? And the only teams that come to mind are the Baltimore Orioles that, got off to that horrendous, I think they got, 21 straight or something they opened the season losing. And the Detroit Tigers had a horrific start one year. I remember that. Cincinnati, I just don't know how that translates to 3-25 with some of the ball players that they have. They have major league talent on the team. This isn't all AAA guys coming up. I mean, they got.
That's right.
I think Joey
And they got
Votto
this young up and
hurt.
coming pitcher, this guy Hunter Green, who's
Right.
flamethrower kind of thing. It just kind of that stands out just as much as the Mets and the Yankees. And Rob was telling us before, it may be the first time that the California and New York teams are in first place at this point in the season, with the Angels and the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets.
Yeah. And back to the New York Mets. When they win games down 7-1 in the ninth inning, right, as they did the other night, that's pretty special. Okay.
Yeah.
They've won Buck Showalter with double switches and things like that. They won a game because of that. I mean, these are important games to win, right? Especially against the Braves, who are the defending champions, right?
Yep.
So when you're in a tight pennant race, games like this in late April and early May that we're going to forget about come September in the race. But when you look at the standings,
they all matter. Yeah.
And then just real quick on the Mets, and again, I'll harp on this, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying it's obvious. Steve Cohen, the Mets owner, money is no object. So, they did the right thing. This isn't the Wilpons still owning the New York Mets. Now, granted, right, the Wilpons never would have ate $40 million to get rid of that piece of crap, Robinson Cano. Would have never done it. Steve Cohen, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
right?
$37 million to pay you off.
And I'm happy that Cano is not going to get 3,000 hits. He's a two-time cheat, okay? I don't want to go off on Robinson Cano, but Robinson Cano has been such a disappointment to me as an ex-Yankee. And I put him in Alex Rodriguez territory.
He was so promising.
As a liar, cheat. And I don't want any talk of Hall of Fame with this guy. And I'm glad he's not.
And I know his numbers are. We talked about a little bit. He's literally the closest to 3,000 hits of any active major league player, which he's not going to get.
It's like
but when you talk about him, you were right. When he first came up with the Yankees, he was so promising. He had so much talent, and then he decided. And listen, we've seen this before. Guys say, I'm going to take the money. So he went to Seattle, and the wheels came off.
Can't fault him for that, right? But he went to, again, his resume is built on PEDs, and that's the case. And also, he's another one of the guys that once you don't run out a ground ball, and he was famous for this too on the Yankees.
You're on our list.
I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Okay, and that's why Gleyber Torres, I'm not done with him yet. Right, because he's still young.
I told you, he's a player worth keeping.
Right, but if Gleyber Torres ever runs out of ball again,
and he goes on the list.
He goes
on our list.
Oh, he got a warning letter. Trust me, from us.
Okay. But let's talk about a couple other quick things in Major League Baseball. This Trevor Bauer 2-year suspension.
I'm still torn on this. I really am. And the only reason is legally, the legal justice system decided not to indict him, regardless of the horrific details of what transpired.
Unspeakable things.
That's why, again, innocent until proven guilty, right? He was never charged. So I understand what Major League Baseball has to do here. I get that. And it's a very long suspension. But Trevor Bauer is fighting this. He's suing the lady. He's going to get this suspension reduced. I don't know by how much. But Trevor Bauer is that he's got that. He's wired a different way. Whether he misses 2 years, whether he misses 2 years or whatever it is, he's going to come back and pitch. I can't guarantee that somebody will allow him to come back and pitch, but Trevor Bauer wants to pitch again, and I think as the story still unfolds, listen.
Can I just let me just make a point on this? And you're right.
I think he'll be back eventually.
I'm not going to be surprised if he is, but when you look at this, the circumstances, and he concedes these were consensual relationships with these women, and then two of them end up in the hospital. I mean, are we talking about a coincidence here? I get it. Maybe from a legal perspective, you can't prove it, but that coincidence is just so overwhelming to me that he deserves to be suspended, and he deserves to be, looked at as somebody. There's just too much popcorn leading to the trail. I'm sorry. It's a topic that's very dear to me that I can't even fathom that we would talk about somebody because he's a good baseball, football player, and then have this horrible black cloud that continues to follow us. I just don't see it as a coincidence. I just don't.
Right, but again, to my point, he was never. They didn't indict him.
But one last other thing in Major League Baseball, and this is a guy that he's going to the Hall of Fame, as we know. Clayton Kershaw breaks the all-time Dodgers strikeout lead, and you look at the legacy with the Dodgers. We're talking Drysdale, Koufax, Sutton. I mean, it's quite a milestone for him.
Hershiser. Yeah, but Clayton Kershaw has pitched a long time.
Yeah,
and he's not saying he had Sandy Koufax like dominant seasons, like 5 or 6, that are just off the charts, man.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that Clayton Kershaw is now the all-time leading strikeout leader.
But when we're talking about who we passed, we're talking about some of the greatest pitchers of all time, and that's
absolutely
that's
Don Drysdale too. You bet.
Yep.
Don Newcomb and on and on and on.
Yeah. Good for him,
Fernando Mania. Fernando Mania.
Yeah. Well, he had a few good years, but he didn't have the years these guys had.
Maybe 3.
Right. So, Steve, there was some other sporting events that worth noting. And again, it was boxing, and we don't talk a lot about boxing. We talk about the Fury guy and whatnot, but this was women boxing. Headliner at the Madison Square Garden, which is, like I said, the history of boxing matches in the Garden is unprecedented. But there's Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and I actually watched some of the highlights of the fight. This was a barn burner. I mean, it was awesome. What a success. And she's, she endured a lot of punishment. And again, it's hard to talk about boxing and women in the same vein, but this is something that was appealing, and it was a big coup for boxing.
Yeah, it reminds me of Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta.
Right.
Come on. Let's be real here. I get it. Listen,
19,000 people.
I get it. I am not walking into Madison Square Garden to watch 2 women box. That's just
either am I.
That's
either am I.
But I'm not saying that I don't wish them well, and congratulations to the victor and all the effort and training that goes into that. It's just not for me. It's just not for me.
I get it too, but I got to say, it really did capture some attention in the world of sports. And again, it seems hard to believe, but this was a headline match in Madison Square Garden, just on the history alone. That's notable. That's why I'm bringing it up. That's all.
It's too bad I Dream of Jeannie's not on anymore, because like how Jerry Quarry got onto I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, Major Nelson and Jerry Quarry was one of the all-time greatest fights. There was also an episode of MASH when Trapper had to fight this big gorilla, and they put the chlorine on the boxing glove. Anyway. I thought that was just interesting to note from boxing because there's not a lot to talk about in boxing.
Nah, I mean, let's talk about Tyson Fury a couple of weeks ago retains his heavyweight championship. Tyson
Yeah.
Fury is a beast. He's just he's a beast, and he kicked the crap out of this guy. And he keeps talking about retirement, but when you're being paid $40 million per fight, but he's a rock star now in England again. Tyson Fury, 100,000 people at Wembley Stadium. Outside of that, yeah, boxing.
A long way from the days of the Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Norton, that kind of stuff. Tyson, it was
right. Well, 40 years ago, what would we be doing at 3:00 on a Saturday? We turn on Channel 7, and what would we watch? Right, Vito Antuofermo versus Alexis Arguello or something, right?
That's right.
Aaron Pryor versus you name it, right?
Vinny Pazienza,
right. Ray Boom Boom Mancini versus whoever, right?
Well, listen, boxing is absolutely
Larry Holmes,
right. It was always awesome, but it has been displaced by this old MMA UFC thing, which my position. I think that's over the top barbaric, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that one up.
No, I got you.
But so Steve,
I want to just jump back to baseball real quick. Give Aaron Judge a pat on the back. It was a feel good. Listen, it was a feel good story in Toronto. A kid.
That was great.
Gets his home run ball from Aaron Judge, and the way it transpired. And we talk about
role models.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think we speak more about the bad side of sports of late than the good side of sports. And I'm not Aaron Judge's agent here pushing for a $300 million contract from the New York Yankees. I just thought he will. I just thought it was a good side to see. And Aaron Judge, to me, has always presented himself as a class kid. And I think it was just a good feel-good story, and I wanted to acknowledge that for Aaron Judge.
No, that was absolutely awesome. I mean, right from the foul ball to the Blue Jays guy that gave it to the Yankee fan kid, and the kid breaks it out in tears. I mean, that's what, that's the lighter side of sports that gets, glazed over at times. And you're right.
The kid gets to spend the day with Judge the next day, that type of thing. But, that's what baseball needs. They needed a little story like that. That wasn't scripted, right? That was just, pure, a good feel-good story, right?
Yeah. So, and that's how you and I were when we were little. And I remember the day when we had tickets to go to the Mets game, and I started crying because you got to go to the game and I didn't go to the game.
I got to go to the game because I cried harder than you.
Right.
That's true.
And we were about the same age as that kid who got the foul ball and got to meet Aaron Judge.
That's right. And the game was the Mets versus the Braves. I think it was like 1973. And Henry Aaron hit a home run of John Matlack of the New York Mets.
Yeah, right. It was.
And the Braves had like Ralph Garr on that team, and they stunk. Phil Negro was on the team at the time.
Yeah,
but
and that was probably Duffy Dyer or Jerry Grody was the catcher for the Mets that day, something like that.
Yes, it was Duffy Dyer. And at first base, Eddie Kranepool. That's right. Felix Neon at second base.
Bud and Harrelson. At third base, Wayne Garrett. Anyway, that was a great moment in sports. So Steve, let's just touch base real quick on golf, because there was kind of a interesting event that happened with this Sergio Garcia, right? He hits the ball out of bounds, and the marshal times him, and he spends too much time going. And the reason I'm bringing it up, because we talked about this whole Saudi Arabia thing, and Greg Norman leading the pack, but Sergio Garcia literally on video and quote, "I can't wait to leave this tour." And I say, good riddance. And
Oh,
we
absolutely.
talked about it before. Why he's not even relevant. He does have a green jacket, which he gets a free pass, but that was just a bad look overall. And this Saudi thing, and um, the PGA is holding this against guys like Greg Norman, who asked for an exemption for two-time British Open champion, denied the play, which I'm okay with because he's 68 years old or whatever he is. I don't think that we should have guys playing in these Masters and whatnot if they're not have a legitimate chance of winning. But that was a bad look for Sergio Garcia. Did you see it?
I did, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that these guys are signed and ready to go. And
Yeah.
Garcia, Freudian slip, right? It's not surprising. And once he goes, he's never playing in the Masters again. I'm telling you right now. Once he leaves this tour, Jay Monahan is on record. You're toast. You're done.
Wow. I didn't know that officially.
Yeah, you're done. Go. Bye bye. So you have Lee Westwood is already committed to the Saudi Arabia. Bye bye. And Mickelson, Mickelson is never going to play. Listen, if Mickelson, I'm not sure if he's going to play. He's a defending PGA champ. He's in the news because of the $40 million in gambling losses. From 10 years ago, which is not surprising, right?
Not to me, it's not.
Mickelson, oh my God, this past 3 months for Mickelson, he has stained his legacy so bad, and he is going to this. There's no question he's playing in this. Why? Because the purses are up to $20 million, or I'm not saying the winner makes $20 million, but a tournament. You could walk away with $7 million or something.
Mm-hmm.
So Mickelson, I think, is making the move, right? Now Garcia, you can guarantee he's going. Lee Westwood, and there'll be others. You mentioned
there will be
Poulter,
others.
You mentioned Poulter and other guys, but these are has-beens. The main thing is the young guys that are 25 or under 30, they're not going because they know it's suicide to do it. Right?
You're absolutely right.
Good riddance. And I tell you what, I've always supported Phil Mickelson from his whole career, no matter all the warts with him, and even taking out the driver at Winged Foot and blowing the U.S. Open, right? I was actually devastated by that for him. I felt the pain of that loss for him. But I'm done with Phil Mickelson now. I'm done with him. I'm done with him.
Well, we talked about in the NBA, there's these new up-and-coming guys, and the PGA Tour is loaded with them. And they're loyal to the tour. They appreciate the fan base, and they're staying put. The has-beens, adios.
Adios,
and listen, we're a couple weeks away from the PGA, which is normally, in years past, the last major. This year, it's the second major. It's Southern Hills in Oklahoma. And it's going to be a great field. I'm looking forward to it. But that Sergio Garcia thing rubbed me the wrong way. It really did.
I've never liked Sergio Garcia, to be honest. I've never rooted for him. I never disliked him either. Like, he was like, when he won the Masters, I wasn't upset that he won the Masters. I was a kind of, monkey off the back for him, right? He never rubbed me the wrong way. I just didn't, really root for him, right?
He just never lived up to the expectations.
Oh, that too. But just real quick on the PGA Championship being moved up to number 2 in the major cycle, that's one of the things in changing sports. Like, I didn't have a problem with, because it makes sense, right? Because when the PGA Championship was played, the NFL was pretty much has already started. You got the Major League Baseball playoff races, et cetera, right? So I just wanted to say that. So when we talk about changes in baseball and all the nonsense that goes on with that, that's silly stuff to me. Overtime rules and the NFL, that's silly stuff to me. I just want to acknowledge, I think that move by golf is thumbs up.
Okay. So let's move on, Steve. Like I said, those segments were sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, of course, and we continuously thank them and Coriano Trucking for their support and sponsorship of the show. Couple random points of interest, Steve. Let's go down the list here. A guy that we watched and I think we both liked in tennis, Boris Becker, and then going to do some time, for some inappropriate financial dealings. Big news.
No, I mean, Becker had a trial in England, and it was pretty fair. And listen, he was hiding stuff. He filed for bankruptcy. He's been, on tough financial times for a few years now, and it's plain and clear he was hiding assets, and he's guilty, and he's got to pay. He's got to do time.
And this is one of those. This is a fall from grace thing. Your legacy, and he was considered great. He probably won at least 5-6 major Grand Slam events, right? And nobody's above the law.
Rob, can you look that up? How many majors that Becker won? We know he won Wimbledon.
No, he won at least 6 major Grand Slam events.
So let's just find out.
Who's that again?
Boris Becker. How many majors did he win?
Grand Slam events.
Grand Slams.
See, while Rob's looking that up, you and I always bring up the sports memorabilia thing, right? Every year, every week there's somebody buying a baseball card but how about this? And you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, the Hand of God jersey worn by Maradona, all-time sports memorabilia record.
I got an answer.
We got
6.
Very good, Jim. Yeah, but it makes sense. Boris Becker, back to him real quick. That is a fall from grace, and he was so young too. Like he was a baby when he burst onto the scene. So
he looked young. He was a young.
He looks weathered. I mean, he's younger than us, and he looks older than us now.
He does.
But you're right. The Hand of God jersey. Again, our loyal listener Diego goes to his. That's his sport, and it just proves that soccer worldwide is the number one, sport, especially in South America and in Europe and all over the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that would right now be the record holder.
And when we talk about memorabilia, that just they recently sold a Jackie Robinson bat that he used in the All-Star game for $1 million. So people got a lot of money to spend on nostalgia, but what's going to be the next thing? What's going to break the Hand of God jersey as far as $9 million for a piece of clothes? I mean, it's crazy.
The other one in the news about a week ago was Honus Wagner again, and this was a card that had like a torn end of it and some frayed marks and things like that. But the thing is, there's only X amount of them out there, and this wasn't. I think it went for like $1.5 million as opposed to like a mint top of the line Honus.
Right.
It's a lot of dough for a baseball card.
Yep. And one other random point, Steve, I wanted to mention when we covered Major League Baseball, you got to give a shout out to, you and I have been watching this guy as a player in his entire managerial career. Dusty Baker gets 2,000 wins. That's pretty notable for me. And we talked about the Chris Paul guys or the guys that go down, Karl Malone, Stockton's, great people in their particular field that don't get to taste that champagne. And Dusty tasted it as a player, but 2,000 wins as a manager, it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. He did thankfully tasted it as a player.
Yep.
The 81 Dodgers strike shortened season, beat the Yankees in the World Series. But Dusty Baker, 2,000 wins. And Dusty Baker is genuinely one of the good guys. Universally liked, respected, and that's a nice milestone for him.
Yeah, very similar to you want guys like that, like him and Showalter, to to win as a manager for a reward for 20 plus years is, one of the best in the business. I want to
Right.
shout
And I
out.
want that bad for Aaron Boone after 4 years.
We'll see about that. Steve, a couple
Also,
of things.
real quick back on baseball, I think Joe Girardi's tenure and I don't think Girardi's going to last a month in Philly.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's imminent. I think the fans are turning on him, and I think his act,
Yeah.
so to speak, is wearing thin in Philadelphia.
I mean, listen, he's
especially blowing the 7-1 lead.
Exactly. That's going to probably be the final nail type of thing,
Correct.
Listen, the guy knows the game. He's a great manager. It just
World
doesn't
Series
seem the
champ
chemistry's
as a
not there.
manager, no doubt. Joe
That's
Girardi.
right.
I don't have a problem with Joe Girardi personally. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
him, but I can see his style grating on a young team, and the Phillies spent a lot of money this year, so they got to win now.
Yeah. So, Steve, real quick, we're going to touch on our notables, and luckily from the world of sports, not many notables. Couple from the world of entertainment. David Burney, actor, longtime thing. He's been in a million things.
Absolutely.
83.
Yeah, David Burney. If for those folks, yeah, he's been in a million. He wasn't a movie star. He was a TV character guy, right?
Exactly.
If I remember when we were really young, there was a show. I think it was our sister's favorite, one of her favorite. Bridget Loves Bernie. But he was like, he'd play a lawyer. He'd play, a criminal. He'd play 1,000.
83 years old. Yeah.
83.
Right.
He had a good career.
And one other one, I want you to mention it because you brought it to my attention. I started laughing as soon as you said it, and then I realized who it was because you may not know the name, but you certainly know the face.
Yeah, Mike Haggerty passed away. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and this guy was a character actor, like a Second City TV type of guy.
Oh, he was in 1,000 shows.
1,000 things, but most notably for a lot of our audience members, Seinfeld. He was the guy behind the counter, with the cabana clothes and the executive.
Morty Seinfeld's executive.
Seinfeld's executive range things. He had the cash roll. Yeah, I'll give you $50 for that type of thing. So if you can visualize Mike Haggerty, he had the black bushy hair, the bushy mustache, but he had a gregarious personality. Was in 1,000 TV things, and he passed
Outstanding
away.
Character actor, definitely notable.
Absolutely. So,
and Steve, I got a couple of quick mentions before we wrap up because we're closing in on end of the show. But tomorrow's a very memorable day for you and I. Our mother passed away 9 years ago tomorrow, and she's my screensaver on my phone, and she's never far from our thoughts. And when we talk about sports with Mano and Mano, I wish she was here to see us week after week, but that's a big moment for us, and she'll never be forgotten. And
no doubt. And plus, her birthday was this past week. She would have been 92 years old. And our sister too. Our sister Mary Ellen's birthday was this past week, and she's home in Kentucky, and she has COVID now. And we wanted to say hello to her, wish her happy birthday again. Hope she's feeling well again. Yeah. And there's a real quick story with the two of them. That my mother wanted to have her daughter born on her birthday, and if I remember correctly, Mary Ellen was born 2 minutes before midnight on the 3rd of May. Our mother's birthday is on the 4th, so I think Mary Ellen came in 2 minutes too early. But we love you.
One other shout out, Steve, to our nephew, and we're just talking about our sister, and just graduated from the University of Kentucky, and the kid's an engineer. These guys are rocket scientists. Our sister had 3 kids that could do Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds, and we can't do it at all. But that's a big milestone for us. And you brought it up with with your daughter Emily going to Boston University, and Luke, Mary Ellen's daughter is going to Ole Miss, and
Yeah.
it's amazing what she has done with raising those kids, and they're just smart kids, and it's great. And I wanted to make sure we mentioned that.
Yeah, congratulations to Luke. University of Kentucky, getting your
Yep.
degree, and he's going to have a great career in whatever he chooses to do, most likely in the engineering field. And Bridget, good luck at Ole Miss. Hopefully Lane Kiffin is there for 4 years, but typically Lane likes to get up and move every 2 years. But that's great. SEC. And there's, like I said, I asked my sister, how far is the ride from Kentucky to Ole Miss? She said it's like 8 hours, which is less than our sister driving these hell rides from Kentucky to where we are in New Jersey, which is like 12 hours. So good luck to them. And the other child is Spencer, who's out in Colorado at the School of Mines. And he's another brilliant one. And we wish our nieces and nephews all the best.
Yep, and like I said, I wanted to also mention our sponsor, Mr. Coriano Trucking, just became a grandfather. And last point is, I'm going to be a grandfather, as my daughter Nicole is expecting her third child in the next few weeks. So we'll make sure we mention that on the show.
Congratulations, and Nicole is my goddaughter, and we love again we're blessed. There's 7 of us, 6 boys, 1 girl. And I swear to God, I've lost count how many nieces and nephews I have at this point.
Yeah.
I think the last count is, 21, 22, something like that. And, now we're in the great uncle category, great aunt category, and we're blessed.
But those are our shout outs. And again, it just comes to how grateful we are to be in those situations and have our show and to be able to talk about it. And Rob, thanks for jumping in as our producer, and we look forward to next week's show. So enjoy the Kentucky Derby today, enjoy the playoffs, and we'll catch up with you guys next week. Of course, send us an email at sports@gmail.com. Steve, I'll catch up to you later.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.